Logan Paul, Mr. Beast, and KSI's new Lunchable dupe could actually be dangerous for your kid.
I'm back as well, FITTITE, and today we're going to be taking a look at these TikTok videos. If you guys like the video, remember, let's try to get to 1,000 likes this video. If you like the chain, check the link down in the description. And the scariest part about this video, it says that 75% of you guys are not subscribed. Make sure to subscribe. We're going to be taking a look at way more than just TikToks on this channel, so subscribe.
Oh, here we go. Washington has officially activated the National Guard after receiving new information and concerns regarding potential violence related to the election. Now, the governor hasn't disclosed how many troops were being activated, but said that they would be on standby from November the 4th to the 7th. And he said that based on general and specific information, I want to ensure that we are fully prepared to respond.
National Guard for the election. I feel like something big might happen this election. I'm not gonna lie. Like, hopefully it's not like another situation where they raid like somewhere, but like something crazy might happen.
Did you know the Great Sphinx has a tail? And that it also may have been built by the civilization of Atlantis thousands of years earlier than mainstream history suggests for a very specific purpose. Welcome to Phil's Pixel. According to this theory, the Sphinx was not made by the ancient Egyptians. We're told it was built about 4,500 years ago, around 2,500 BC, but many believe it was constructed by a civilization that far predates anything we know. The Sphinx itself doesn't make any sense. It shouldn't even exist. For one, the ancient Egyptians were obsessed with recording everything they did. Yet, just like the pyramids, despite there being hieroglyphs that go back 5,000 years and more, not a single one of them mentions the Sphinx at all. One mainstream theory suggests the Sphinx was built as a sort of guardian of the pyramids to protect the pharaoh's treasures, but over time lost its significance, and the Egyptians just forgot to mention it in any of their texts. Like anywhere, no records of when it was built, for what purpose, or why its head is so small. Just look at it. The most immediate observation of the Sphinx is how tiny its head is compared to the rest of its body. It doesn't even remotely fit proportionally with its enormous body and just looks awkward, like it was done by accident. As you may know, ancient Egyptians were masters of proportion with their art, carvings, and statues. In fact, they are quite literally world famous for it. Statues they carved like these are notoriously known for being scarily precise, almost like they were machine made. You're telling me the guys who precisely calculated all four edges of a 146-meter high pyramid to meet perfectly at the top at the same time, a marvel of engineering even by today's standards, made the mistake of getting the head too small on a monument as important as the Sphinx, said to be the face of Khafre, the successor of Khufu, yet many agree it does not look like any other depictions of Khafre across ancient Egypt. As a matter of fact, it appears as if the Sphinx once had a much larger head, thought to have originally had the head of a dog or perhaps a lion with a full mane, and by the time the ancient Egyptians discovered it, they gave it a facelift, making it look more human and inadvertently ruining the proportions in the process. Because whoever did build the Sphinx dug it directly into the limestone bedrock beneath it, carving and hollowing out an entire enclosure around it. The blocks that were cut out of this bedrock were used to build the Temple of the Sphinx right in front of it, which have mostly deteriorated over time. Now, this right here, this is the part that sealed the deal, all but confirming we've gotten the age of the Sphinx wrong all these years, even among skeptics. With initially doubtful professional geologists like Robert Schoch traveling to Egypt with the intention of proving these fringe theories wrong. Yet, upon seeing it up close for the first time from the perspective of a geologist rather than an archaeologist, he realizes it is scientifically accurate to suggest the Sphinx is far older than we claim, because water erosion patterns around the enclosure indicate that heavy weathering by either strong or prolonged streams of water have occurred here. The Sphinx water erosion hypothesis. He and many others concluded that patterns like these definitely could not have been weathered by natural wind and sand, and also confirmed that these could not have been as a result of the Nile River flooding, leading to one of two choices: either consistent rainfall over thousands of years or super intense flash flooding. Climate data confirms this part of Egypt saw very little rainfall over the past 5,000 years, leaving us only with option 2, powerful floods. And the last era that fits the criteria that aligns with the rock patterns here was around 9600 BC, suggesting the Sphinx to be closer to 11,600 years old, conveniently lined up with the time of the Younger Dryas. And around 12,000 years ago, the Sphinx would have been facing in the direction of the constellation of Leo at the time. A lion, leading us back to the idea that the Sphinx may have originally been a lion monument with a much larger head facing the constellation that it represented, only to get washed away and buried for thousands of years, get rediscovered by the ancient Egyptians, and then forgotten again, until the 1800s, around which time the top of its head became visible from shifting sands. Then in the 1920s, the first official excavation started, finishing in 1936 for the very first time in a long time, from which many involved with the project agreed the depth that it was buried at did not match anything else in the area. There's no way the Sphinx could have been that deep underground by accident, leading them to strongly believe it was intentionally buried. And why? Because it may have been built as a safekeeper of knowledge for the legendary Atlantean Hall of Records that still exists hidden beneath it to this day. We'll dive into that one next time, and reminder, this is just a theory. For entertainment purposes only, may or may not be true, so shut the fuck up.
I feel like a lot of things that we think we know, we really don't know, so that could be true, but it's just a theory.
Some facts you didn't know, part 237. The first use of a slow motion replay in television was during the gruesome boxing match between Benny Perrette and Emil Griffith. Benny never recovered from the fight and died 10 days later due to brain hemorrhaging. Aga Muhammad Khan was an 18th century Persian king who ordered the execution of 2 servants for being too loud. He decided to postpone their execution to avoid doing it on a holy day. He let them return to their duties and they killed him that very same night. Alfred Lowenstein was the 3rd richest person in the world in the 1920s. This was due to his investments in electric power and artificial silks. While on a trip to Brussels on his private aircraft in 1928, he went to the rear of the plane to use the bathroom but never returned. When his secretary went looking for him, they discovered that the bathroom was empty but the entrance door to the plane was flapping open. His body was discovered about a week later and an autopsy revealed he had a partial fracture in his skull and several broken bones. They concluded that he was still alive when he hit the water in the English Channel. A test was done on his aircraft and it was found that it was impossible for someone to accidentally fall out of the door. Although many theories exist, what actually happened to him still remains a mystery to this day.
If you believe in God, stay away from the truth.
Check your candy for Razorbacks.
Associate with it and stay away. Share this everywhere and spread awareness.
Most disturbing Halloween facts. So you all remember when you were kids and you went trick-or-treating and your parents would try to check your candy for razor blades, and we all kind of just thought it was a myth. But really, it is true. In Ohio, one Halloween night, a child was sorting through their Halloween candy when they cut their finger on a blade in the candy bag. They went to the hospital for stitches and no one else was injured. The blade was hidden inside of the wrapper of a candy bar. The same night in Waterbury, Connecticut, police arrested a man after razor blades were found in the bottom of 2 trick-or-treater candy bags.
Putting razor blades in candies for kids is just a little bit weird in my opinion. It's actually a lot of bit weird. I wonder why people would do something like that.
This is the scary truth behind Halloween. Okay, so everybody knows how on Halloween, everybody dresses up in a costume. But the original Halloween costumes were a lot creepier. When Halloween first started, people would wear animal heads and skin. They did this because they hoped that the costumes would make wandering spirits think that they are spirits also, and then let them free. This is actually pretty creepy, and I wonder what happened to make them think like this. Thank God it's not like that anymore.
Never stick your tongue out for 10 minutes. Curious facts you didn't know. Each time you take a step, you're using about 200 different muscles. In the United Kingdom, a pregnant woman can pee anywhere she wants, including in a policeman's helmet. Every year, goats cause more deaths than sharks. However, sharks get much more attention in the media. You would never know that a child has 98 more bones than an adult. Someone you spoke to today is speaking ill of you behind your back. It's the first person who appears when you press the green icon below. Swipe everything to the right and go to the More option. There you will find the person. The inventor of the light bulb, Thomas Edison, created it because he was afraid of the dark. Ants have 2 stomachs, one to store food for themselves and another to store food for other ants. The newest country in the world is South Sudan, which was declared in 2011. So, you are older than a country. It has been scientifically proven that being alone for a long time is as bad for your health as smoking 35 cigarettes a day. About 30 million people have the same last name as you. What's your last name? See in the comments who else shares it with you.
Yo, that'd be like a cool little game. Like, drop your last name in the comment and see if anyone else has the same last name as you. That'd be crazy. But what I'm trying to figure out is, like, why would pregnant women specifically pee in a police officer's helmet? Like, why the helmet?
If a drop of water entered your heart, it would stop functioning completely. Curious facts you didn't know. Believe it or not, in a country called Finland, it is illegal to kill mosquitoes. And if you do so, you can be sentenced to up to 3 years in prison. When you find yourself thinking too much about a person, it's because that person is also thinking about you. A 24-year-old man set a world record for keeping his eyes open without blinking for 1 hour and 13 minutes. There are more people dead at the bottom of the sea than in the largest cemetery in the world. Did you know that a baby has 206 more bones than adults?
If you're left-brained, you'll see 2 people hugging, but if you're right-brained, you'll see a dinosaur. So which do you see in the photo above?
What did y'all see? I saw a dog. I didn't even see a dinosaur or two people hugging. I saw a dog. So I guess I'm like center brained or something.
It's that time of the year, so let's look at the ancient origins of Halloween. The origins of Halloween go back thousands of years to the ancient Celtic pagans. They celebrated a festival called Samhain, meaning end of summer. It basically marked the end of harvest and the beginning of the darker times of the year, so the colder times. They believed that on Samhain, the boundaries between the world of the living and the world of the dead become blurred. And so the return of the undead to our world is celebrated with fire. The crops were burnt and druids would light a big bonfire. The druids were basically Celtic pagan priests, and it's believed that on Samhain, they could predict the future.
This is a scary story about Halloween candy. On Halloween night, there was a woman giving out candy all night. As it grew darker and darker, things began to calm down. When it seemed like nobody else was going to be coming, the woman went inside and called it a night. She was just about to turn off the porch light when somebody knocked on the door. She thought it was too late for children to still be out, but she grabbed a handful of candy and opened the door. There were 2 children standing on the porch, but they weren't wearing any costumes. They were the strangest children she had ever seen. Their skin was waxy and ghostly white, and their eyes were completely black, and their teeth were too big to fit in their mouth. The confused woman then said, "What are you guys supposed to be, monsters?" "No," said the children. "Tonight we are dressed as humans." A chill ran down the woman's spine as she shut the door. The children began to bang on the door and scream. The woman then looked through the peephole, but the children were gone, and the road was completely empty. The woman moved houses and never took part in Halloween ever again.
The craziest Halloween houses you've ever seen. Someone turned their house into a castle and it comes with a dragon. This person made a UFO crash site in their front yard. You have to love Halloween to put that much effort into it. This guy built a huge scarecrow, and look how small he is compared to it. That's gigantic. Someone put a skeleton on the road and made it look like it's coming out of the ground. Before I show you the best one, I just found a way to prank your friends by replacing their texts with whatever you want. If you want to prank your friends, press here on my profile, then press change your friends' text messages. And finally, I really don't like spiders, but this was very well done.
If you break one of Sam's rules this Halloween, don't say I didn't warn you. Sam is the spirit of Halloween and appears in a new town every single year. He is known to have 4 rules of Halloween. Always give out candy, wear a costume, never blow out a jack-o'-lantern, and number 4, check your candy. Sam goes to different towns to ensure that Halloween traditions are continued and punishing those who ignore it. Sam is very much like a child, always getting in trouble and loves chocolate. Sounds like me. Now remember, as long as you respect Halloween, you should not get a visit from Sam.
The scariest urban legends around the world. Russia. Baba Yaga. Serbia. Serbian dancer. Japan. Tick tick. Arizona. Skinwalker. West Virginia. Mothman. Maryland. Goatman.
Is it just me or Halloween's dying? Think about it, when we were kids, bro, everyone was in the spirit, man. Everyone would decorate their house, everyone would carve pumpkins, and I don't know, I feel like nowadays, I don't even see people with pumpkins outside, bro. I find it sad, man, because our community of kids is growing by the day, and if you really think about it, we should be more in the spirit than ever. I swear I can't be the only one that feels that way, bro. We all have to be engaged as a community, bro. So if you're the only one that hasn't dressed up for Halloween, or at least did something for Halloween, Come on, man.
Nah, he's right. Like, I feel like a lot of times nowadays people don't really do anything crazy for Halloween. Like, it kind of like died down. But nowadays, realistically, all I see is just girls dressing like crazy. Like, they're dressing I'm like, bro, this is Halloween. You're supposed to be scary. Like, why are you dressed like that? I mean, you know what I'm saying? You do what you want, but it's just like...
Here are some Halloween facts that you've never heard before. 1 in 4 adults in the United States pretend not to be home when trick-or-treaters knock on their door. Every 19 years, there's a full moon on Halloween. The next one will be in 2039, which means yes, the last one was in 2020. The largest pumpkin ever was bred in a garden in Switzerland. It weighed 950 kilograms or more than 2,000 pounds, which is the weight of a small car. The world's longest haunted house is the Haunted Cave in Lewisburg, Ohio, at 3,564 feet long and 80 feet underground. Hocus Pocus was initially titled Halloween House and was more of a horror than a comedy. Tootsie Rolls were given to soldiers in battle during the Korean War because they provided much needed energy and satisfied hunger, especially when other rations were frozen solid due to the extreme sub-zero temperatures. They also used Tootsie Rolls to plug bullet holes in vehicles and fix leaking radiators by molding the warm candy into patches that would refreeze and hold. The Beverly Hills City Council unanimously banned the use of shaving cream, silly string, and hair removal products for people under the age of 21 for 24 hours every year on Halloween. Why would they want to do that? What can you do with that stuff? Samhain phobia is what the fear of Halloween is officially called. Terry Houdini died from a ruptured appendix on Halloween night in 1926. Candy corn was originally called chicken feed, and the reason for this is because when it first appeared around the late 1800s, that just happened to be a time when over half of America's workforce were farmers. Because of this, candies were often made into agricultural shapes such as chicken feed, which we now think of as corn shaped. We changed it to candy corn after World War I when corn became viewed as food people would actually eat. Keene, New Hampshire holds the record for most lit jack-o'-lanterns by lighting over 30,000 pumpkins. They broke that record in 2013 and ever since have broken it again 8 more times. The record for fastest pumpkin carving is 16.47 seconds. In order to qualify, the pumpkin had to have a nose, eyes, mouth, and ears. The first jack-o'-lantern in history was actually made of turnip. Sugar rationing during World War II paused trick-or-treating, causing an all-out boom from candy companies once the war was over, which is really what created the tradition of using candy for trick-or-treating every single year like we do today. Scottish women used to hang wet sheets in front of a fire to see their future husbands on Halloween. Mamie Eisenhower was the first lady to decorate the White House for Halloween in 1958. Illinois produces the most pumpkins every year in the United States. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups were the most popular candy in 2023, with 29% of Americans choosing it as their favorite. However, in 2024, M&M's overtook Reese's Peanut Butter Cups as the top favorite candy. Halloween is older than Christianity itself. Americans are spending an average of $100.45 on Halloween, with $29.51 of that on candy. Also, Americans will spend over $3 billion on Halloween candy this year, as well as last year and next year, with over $10 billion spent on Halloween alone with costumes and decorations and everything else. Bobbing for apples also started with fortune telling, specifically predicting whom a woman would marry. In one version of Bobbing for Apples, girls would discreetly mark apples before placing them in the water, and when their male peers would try to catch the fruit, the apple they got would determine their future mate. Bobbing for apples is apparently one of the longest on-running traditions from Halloween, and I don't think I've done it in over 20 years. Maybe we should do it again.
I've never done bobbing apples. I didn't even know that was a thing.
A cop passed away after a criminal spits in her face, then the police reveal the shocking cause. Reina was an extremely responsible police officer who worked in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. Together, Reina and her partner, Officer Michael, were almost always together wherever they went. One day while on the job, Reina heard a man screaming on the street corner and decided to approach him. Upon approaching the man, he became extremely violent, and after he was arrested, he spit in Reina's face. face. Raina kept calm and continued working every single day until one day she became too weak and passed out on the floor. She was immediately rushed to the hospital but unfortunately passed away. Doctors began running tests to see what could have caused her sudden passing, and what they found left them absolutely shocked. Hit the plus for part 2.
Trick-or-treating started in Scotland and Ireland in the 1600s, and it was originally called guising. The purpose was for a kid to go door to door and perform a trick or an act in return for a treat. This tradition lasted until the 1900s. This is when the tradition began to spread and made its way to North America, where it adopted the term trick-or-treating. And over time, it became less about doing tricks at the door and more about saying trick-or-treat.
Understand that Halloween is based on pagan origins, right? So we look at that and some people say, well, it's a pagan holiday, so why would you celebrate Halloween? If you celebrate it, you're worshiping things like that. Well, first thing I want to celebrate is, man, Martin Luther nailed the 95 Theses to the church. Like, that's such a cool part of church history. Like, that's a cool thing to look at. Now, that's not necessarily a part of Halloween. It's like, man, on October 31st, you also have that has occurred. But when it comes to Halloween, my first question is, what are you dressing up as, and what are you celebrating? There are probably people that still celebrate it like a pagan holiday. Satanism is real. There are pagans that worship pagan religions. So it's like, man, what are you doing? What's your heart posture? Is it like, oh, is the little 8-year-old boy that dresses up as Spider-Man that goes and gets Kit Kats and candy corn? Like, is that kid worshiping a pagan holiday? In my eyes, I'm like, man, that kid probably can't even spell pagan. He can't spell paganism. Like, what's that kid doing? His heart's so pure. He's probably dressing up as his favorite superhero, and he's going to get some Hershey chocolate kisses. And we're so worried about people dressing up as Spider-Man and Superman more than we are unrepentant sin, and more than we are like people knowing Jesus. Like, yes, do I think people still celebrate Halloween in a very negative way and worship pagan gods? Absolutely. But I definitely think there are still a lot of people that just put out candy because it's tradition, and they walk around in costumes and things like that, and that are harmless.
Happy Halloween. Here are some horror movie hot takes that get progressively hotter. For example, the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, I'm not like their biggest defender, but they're much better than what everyone says. In fact, I'll go as far as to say they are better than these two movies. I love both, but the twist in Orphan is better than the twist in Saw. That is all I'm going to say. When it comes to remakes, I really love the original Ring, but I think the American remake is slightly better. This year's Speaking of Evil is a good remake. The original is better. Rapid fire best and worst of movies and franchises. In Final Destination, the best is the second, and the worst is the fourth one. For Scream, the best is the first one, but the worst, I'm going to say Scream 5. For Saw, the best is the second one, and the worst is Jigsaw. I love both Hereditary and Midsommar, but I have to live my truth. I think I'm more of a Midsommar guy. For movies where I just don't understand the hype, As Above, So Below, I've tried so many times, but I'm really glad people love it. Also, The Black Phone, kind of the epitome of average. The two best horror movies so far this year are The First Omen and Longlegs. Longlegs being the one that's probably the more divisive pick. If I were to do a Mount Rushmore of the best horror villains introduced in the 21st century, it would go like this: Jigsaw or Billy the Puppet and Art the Clown. Art the Clown, I think, has earned his spot. Then I would go Samara from The Ring, and I think Valak from The Conjuring. Now, if I were to expand that and go to the best horror villains of all time, that list is different. Michael and Freddy make the list not really that crazy. But in third and fourth, I would go Chucky and the Xenomorph. I know, but again, live your truth. And then out of all the horror movies that come out in like the last 20 years, the most disturbing one isn't Terrifier 3 or Sinister. The answer is actually Tusk. It's the only movie that's made me want to reach into my brain, take out the memory of me watching it, and never think about it ever again.
That's the thing about movies nowadays, though. Do you really want to watch a movie that makes you want to do that, though? Like, do you really want to sit there and be like, you know, I wish I never watched that movie? You know what I'm saying? Like, nowadays, I feel like the horror genre, people try to get that in between where you're like, oh, it's a good movie, but it wasn't too crazy where it's like, I want to delete it from my brain and never watch it again, you know?
In fact, Halloween traces its roots back more than 2,000 years to the Celtic festival of Samhain, which ended on November 1st and marked the start of their new year. The Celts believed that on the night of October 31st, the separation between the world of the living and the dead was thinnest and would allow the spirits of the dead to walk among them. So they would leave offerings and light bonfires for the spirits, and also dress up, hoping the dead spirits wouldn't recognize them. In the 7th century, when the Catholic Church began converting pagan holidays into Catholic ones, they changed November 1st into All Saints' Day, but the night before still had bonfires and costumes under its new name, All Hallows' Eve. In 16th century England, people would go door to door on All Saints' Day and offer to pray for the homeowner's dead loved ones in exchange for food, cakes, or money. In Scotland and Ireland, children would dress up in costumes and go door to door and sing or recite poetry in exchange for treats. As people immigrated to the US, they brought Hallows' Eve with them, but Halloween didn't really take off until after the Second World War, and the commercialism boom of the 1950s turned it into what it is today.
Gruesome Facts You Didn't Know, Part 242. In 2016, this man in China paid a hitman 70,000 yuan to kill him. He then changed his mind after being stabbed in the stomach over a dozen times. The man was confined to a wheelchair following a car accident and became depressed, wanting to end his life. In August of 2022, Rebecca Vance, her 13-year-old son, and her sister Christine ventured into the Colorado wilderness wanting to live off the grid. With little to no preparation, amateur survival skills, and simply watching a few YouTube videos, the trio was never seen again. It wasn't until July of this year that a hiker stumbled across their mummified bodies at their campsite. The coroner believes they didn't even make it through the winter. In 2009, James Washington was serving a 15-year prison sentence in Tennessee when he suffered a heart attack. Believing he was on his deathbed, he confessed to a guard that he had beaten a woman to death. He survived, and the cold case of Joyce Goodner was reopened following his confession. When he recovered, he tried to take his confession back. He received an additional 51 years behind bars.
How the hell is this even real? It may not be news for you, but it is for me, so I'm talking about it. 24 years ago, The Simpsons dropped an episode where Lisa is the first female president of the United States, and she's not only wearing a purple suit, but also pearls. Look familiar? And to make the coincidence even crazier, they dropped this line.
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. How bad is it, Secretary Van Houten?
Now, to be fair, Trump did actually run in 2000, which is probably where they got that reference from. But regardless, if Kamala wins and says those words while wearing a purple suit at that desk, I think the world would implode.
Right, here comes the implosion.
Implosion? But I thought you said...
If Kamala says those same words and does exactly what they did in The Simpsons, this whole thing is scripted, I swear to God.
Deadliest computer viruses in the world, Part 9. The WinXP Horror Edition virus. You're gonna remember this one while you sleep tonight. Malware that disguises itself as a Windows update. No further explanation needed. The best way to understand is to experience it. Right-click open, let's infect this bitch. The PC restarts and we hop right into stage 1, fake system update. Windows appears to be installing an update, but it's all a ploy. Looks like we're getting close, but it stops at 66%. And then, error message. Setup cannot copy the file ntdll.dll. Setup will use the file 666.sys. Okay, I guess. This initiates stage 2, Windows theme hijack. Our entire theme gets swapped to this red background creepy eye looking thing as the update continues. This ominous music begins to play with the message, "Don't look behind you." This time the update actually hits 100% and we're gonna... Oh, okay. First jump scare here with a static noise and a glitchy transition. The theme hijack continues with this skeleton boot loading screen until we get to my favorite part. The classic Windows XP start sound. Let me know if you're old enough to remember that, but with a nice horror sounding twist to it. We finally get to the desktop where the red theme goes on and the entire wallpaper's been replaced with skulls. Our entire PC is wiped except for my computer, this file named nothing, another one called don'topenme.txt, and recycle bin at the very bottom. And we're gonna be opening all of these to see where they take us. But first, it gets worse. Stage 3, screen flashes. We get these scary ass photos that continuously flash in the background. Oh, nice. The start menu icon says dead. Click it and our user profile is 666. And there we have more screen flashes, but let's have a bit of fun now. We'll start by... Oh, looks like my cursor turned into an eyeball here, but yeah, let's open up nothing and keep this virus going. Okay, so the music changed and oh, There's stage 4, horror animation. This unsettling flash animation era, creepy pasta cartoon takes over the whole screen and you're just kind of forced to watch it. I'm gonna fast forward it for you guys, but the animation is called The Sad Man by Jake Lava, that tells the story of this lonely masked creature that I guess befriends a little girl. It's low-key kind of giving Salad Fingers. A huge throwback if you remember Salad Fingers. That's some OG internet shit right there, and also you old as fuck. Anyway, the girl unmasks the creature to find out he's got a Duanussy on his face, and he eats her. Animation ends and we're back to desktop. The nothing file is all glitchy now. Honestly, that's a pretty cool looking effect. The animator did a great job with that. Screen flashes continue, but let's open the next file. Don'topenme.txt. Classic horror movie music plays with the message, "Congratulations, you opened me. Do you want to play a game? Okay, then look behind you." I don't know why I keep saying that. But we've entered stage 5, I guess. Game over. You think you're in the clear, and then another jump scare, I believe from a horror video game called Granny, followed by the text on screen, game over. Back to desktop, and this file is glitching now too, but let's open my computer. Surely that should work just fine, right? Nope, we get this message. Do you seriously want to trash your computer forever? Nice. Let's say no, I don't want to do that. Oh, well, that option just disappeared. Yes is our only choice now. I guess there's no escape with this one. Actually, let's just close the prompt and forget we ever opened it. Unfortunately, once you click it, nothing can stop the inevitable stage 6, computer meltdown. My computer just got tossed into the recycle bin, and now... yeah, okay, one more jump scare, sorry about that. Followed by what looks like a fake red screen of death message that just kind of repeats over and over again. Yup, this sure ain't looking good. Oh, and now finally, the official blue screen of death, and our computer is cooked. If you restart now, the virus's final payload overwrites the master boot record, MBR, meaning this entire PC is now essentially just an image of an eye, along with the message, "I'm watching you," and the virus creator's name. Happy Halloween, motherfuckers. Sleep tight tonight.
Honestly, if that ever happened to my computer, I'm just chucking the whole thing away. I don't want the computer anymore. The whole thing's just gone through the window.
Logan Paul, Mr. Beast, and KSI's new Lunchable dupe could actually be dangerous for your kids. Yes, I know everybody is freaking out about the Lunchie because it's like another form of ultra-processed food for kids. And to that I would say, it's literally just cheese, crackers, and deli meat. I've already talked about these a lot on my account. But what I feel like we are missing is an even bigger issue right under our noses. And that is the Prime electrolyte drink in the box. The Prime drink is advertised as a sugar-free drink with 400 milligrams of electrolytes. So you might be wondering, what's the harm? But when I looked at the nutrition facts, I was pretty shocked. Now, this package is for the 16.9 ounce bottle and the Lunchie has 12 ounces, but if we just do a little bit of math here for a 4 to 8-year-old's needs, this drink provides 640 milligrams of vitamin A, which is damn close to the UL level of potential toxicity at 900 milligrams. Like, if a kid were to drink 2 of these a day, which really would not be that hard, they're at 1.5 times the upper limit. That is scary shit. And the rest of the vitamins, while not as dangerous of course, are still well beyond what a kid would actually need. Like 4 times their B6 needs and 3 times their B12 needs. Kids are not just like smaller adults. Their needs are different. And some supplements that we might say are okay for an adult would be dangerous for a child. So yeah, these guys maybe thought it was like a cute idea because yeah, us millennial parents all love a nostalgic throwback. But I have to guess there was absolutely no dietitian consultant on this team, and I would probably pull this before something terrible happens to someone's child. It's not good. Next.
Yeah, there's a lot of backlash with the Logan Paul and like KSI, Mr. Beast, Lunchly, like whole thing. There's a lot of backlash. It's like a whole rabbit hole that you can go down. It's actually crazy. I mean, in my opinion, I never really eat stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's too processed for me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not, but like I feel like it is. So I don't eat stuff like that. But Logan Paul and Mr. Beast, they have a crazy allegations with this. So like, make sure you do your research on Lunchly before you buy it for your kids.
This is everything that happened on the news today, but it's going to be simplified in 60 seconds. Bacteria has mutated on the International Space Station. It is something we've never seen before on Earth. So they're saying that this bacteria is called Enterobacter bugendicis. They're saying that whenever they discovered this virus, they only found 5 different strains of it, but with further investigation, there are now 8 more. so I'll keep you tuned. Saudi Arabia's mega city that's called Neom is now using 20% of all the steel production on the planet, which is crazy. They're telling everybody that this $1.5 trillion project is not expected to be completed until at least 2045, so we have a long ways to go. And for anybody that hasn't heard about this yet, it's basically just this futuristic city that's supposed to fuel itself, where if you live there, you don't need to leave. So that's hopeful. This is dragging up a bunch of controversy online, but this airport is now introducing this new policy that puts a time limit on hugs. This airport is located in New Zealand, but they're saying that they're putting this in place to hopefully get less people out of the boarding area, but a lot of people are upset about it. There's a 3-minute time limit on a hug. I give you these news roundups every day, so make sure you add me and come back to me tomorrow.
Yo, that airport is like, yo, y'all need to start moving, bro. But at the same time, some of these people probably haven't seen their family in like years, years.
The real truth about my life and my sexuality is that, man, I'm just figuring it out like everyone, and I don't really know sometimes, and I know other times. And it feels really scary because we live in a society that just has...
To be honest, I don't really care.
If you ever want to summon a demon, play this game. The game is called the Closet Game. To start the game, take a box of matches and go to your bedroom. Then turn off all the lights and make sure you're in complete darkness. After that, open your closet door and step inside and shut the door. Then stand in the darkness for approximately 2 minutes, facing the door. Then take one match out of the box and hold it in front of you and say, "Show me light or leave me in darkness." Now listen very carefully. If you begin hearing faint whispering, light the match immediately. But if you don't hear anything, and the match does not ignite on its own, then turn around. If you don't light the match fast enough after hearing the faint whispering, you will then feel something grab you from behind, and you will then be dragged into eternal darkness by the demon. And whatever you do, do not stop playing the game once you begin.
Facts that you probably didn't know that one day could save your life. Part 14. Ticks are way deadlier than people say they are. Lyme disease can quite literally stop your heart. If you get bitten, take it off immediately and go see a doctor. If you hear a baby crying outside, keep your door shut and dial 911. It's a trap. Drowning doesn't look like drowning. When someone is drowning, they rarely cry out, can't wave their arms around, and will often just bob in and out of the water while gasping for air. If you're trying to see if a mirror is two-sided, put your nail against the glass. If there's no gap between your nail and the reflection, run. If someone is stumbling around and sounds drunk but hasn't had any alcohol, ask them to smile. If one side of their face is drooping, get them to the hospital. They're having a stroke. There's a monument in Georgia that functions as a calendar, clock, and a compass. It also has instructions on it in different languages on how to rebuild society after an apocalypse.
Here are facts you didn't know that one day could save your life. If you're ever buried in rubble, yelling will only waste your energy. Look for something to grab and tap in intervals of 3, and rescuers will notice this strange pattern. If a tornado looks like it's standing still, this means it's actually moving towards you. If your drink randomly smells like cinnamon, don't drink it. People often use it to cover up the scent of actual poison. If your house ever smells like fish for no reason, 9 times out of 10, it's because there's an electrical fire. If you ever wake up to the smell of gas, don't turn on a light. A spark from the light switch could blow up your entire house. Lying flat on your back is the best way to survive a falling elevator. If your hair suddenly stands up, duck and cover because you're about to be struck by lightning. If you ever fall off the edge onto the tracks, don't try and crawl back up. There's a crawl space built to go underneath in case this happens. If you ever get kidnapped into the back of a vehicle, disconnect the brake light wire so the cops will pull them over, then kick on the door to let them know that you're there.
That brake light method is actually a literal lifesaver. So if you guys ever is for some reason, hopefully God forbid, in the back of someone's trunk, just take out the lights, no brakes, cops pull them over, just start like, yo, help! He just starts driving off though as soon as you do that. Oh my God, I'd be terrified. Now you're in a high-speed chase, and what if he crashes? It's over.
The creepiest places in the world.
Lake Natron, Tanzania.
Due to high levels of salt contents, everything that touches the lake turns to pure stone.
Hello, my friend. That is not accurate. Lake Natron is a mineral-rich lake in Tanzania. Despite its high pH levels, it has some animals that live in it, including the Alclepia fish. The misconception that it turns anything that touches it to stone comes from these photographs. Basically, animals pass away for whatever reason, fall into the water, and become like mummified. A photographer found such animals at Lake Natron, but placed them in a position so they'd look like they're alive for the sake of the photo, which led to some awesome results. Also, this lake is actually where flamingos go to mate. If you're there at the right time, you will see millions.
Phone numbers you should never call, part 15. This is the first phone number. This phone number was a human experiment during the World War II. They designed specific sentences to test how sound affected people in negative ways. So when you call this number, you will hear those sentences, which sound like a disturbing poem, recited by both male and female voices. This is the next phone number. If you call this phone number after midnight, you will be granted a wish. Once they pick up the phone, you just have to whisper your wish, but there will be a price. And the price is that you will be killed after some time. This is the next phone number. This type of numbers are extremely popular in Japan, and they allow you to talk with your doppelganger, and it is said that it can be a death curse. This is the next phone number. This is Murray's phone number from Stranger Things. When you call this number, you will first hear Murray yelling about his mother, then he'll talk to Joyce and finally leave a disturbing message to you. This is the last phone number. This is the SCP number. When you call it, a voicemail will inform you that you have reached the SCP Foundation, and it will instruct you to leave the date, time, location, and a description of any incidents that you may have witnessed.
Unsolved mysteries that will make your skin crawl. In early August 1963, 4-year-old Bobby Pankin and his family went on a hike in Washington State. There was a trail that led down to a waterfall that Bobby's mom wanted him and his brothers to see. And so, she set off down the trail with her 3 boys, and their father stayed behind. As they headed down the trail, it became apparent that not many people ever went down this path. The forest was super dense and it was hard to see where to go. But once they found the waterfall, 4-year-old Bobby didn't really want to go down the hill to see it. And so his mother told their middle brother to stay behind with him. Bobby's brother didn't really want to babysit him while his mom and their older brother were down exploring the waterfall. And so after a couple of minutes, he decided to leave Bobby behind and go explore. Their mother was mad, and when they went back up the trail to find Bobby, he was gone. They searched and yelled out his name, but there wasn't any reply. Police conducted a 7-day search for Bobby, and they couldn't find anything. Nothing, not even blood, was left behind. And after almost 60 years, the mystery has never been solved. What do you think happened?
Crazy things happening in the world right now. This 6-year-old from the UK had her passport denied because she had the same name as a Game of Thrones character. An American Airlines flight made an emergency landing after some passengers noticed lice in another passenger's hair. A driver plowed into this woman's yard and then offered her $50,000 to not call the police. This Olympian's gold medal that he received in Paris this summer is already deteriorating. Disneyland offered a $69 ticket for their 69th anniversary this year to Anaheim residents only. A snake bit this man, so he decided to bite the snake back twice. The snake died and the man lived. Drugs were found disguised as Taco Bell burritos during a routine traffic stop in Tennessee. Microplastics were found in every human semen sample that was tested in a recent study. A recent investigation found that between January 2020 and October 2020, 1/3 of all misinformation posted on X was generated by 10 users from the US and UK.
Yo, microplastics are literally in everything now. It's actually scary. I think it's just because we just drink a lot of water from plastic bottles that slowly leak into our water. Hopefully it doesn't have too bad of health consequences.
There might not be any animal alive with more aura than a black Air Force bull cut weasel. This is Stafa the honey badger, one of the biggest menaces to walk the earth. You see, Stafa had a problem. Shout out to Zevi. All Senegal, we moving on up? Stafa lived in the Mahala Hala Wildlife Center in South Africa. But the African bush ferret was like IBS. You can't stop him, you can only pray to contain him. Stafa was a 4-legged force of nature that escaped every single time. But there's a twist, remind me to tell you. Stafa would often get out, break into the kitchen, and the same biracial badger that could 3v1 lions would chase kitchen staff around ground and then help himself to free food. Speaking of lions, one day Stafa got into the lion den and nearly got mauled into an early life retirement, costing him 2 months in the hospital. First thing the monochrome crash out did when he got better was immediately try to get it back in blood. At one point, Stafa ran a fade with a tawny eagle, that's a tawny eagle, and won, no foul. Stafa climbed a tree and got out, so they removed all the trees next to walls. He broke off a branch, dragged it to a wall, and climbed out again, so they got rid of the trees. Stafa stacked rocks high enough and Andy Dufresne his way out, so out went the rocks. So then Stafa made mud balls, rolled them to the wall, and emancipated himself again. At some point, someone left a rake. Guess what the felony farer did? At one point, they tried giving Stafa a girlfriend named Hammy, and he proceeded to use her as a footstool to unlock his gate, so Bonnie done met her Clyde. One time, he broke into his keeper's house at night through a window. He didn't hurt anybody, but sometimes you gotta pop out and show ninjas. You remember that twist I promised? It was all a game. He had no intentions of ever leaving. He was hand-raised by humans as a baby and imprinted on people. He wasn't going nowhere. Yeah, this dusty Oreo otter was memeing the entire time, and I checked. He's still alive. He's pushing 26 and lost most of his teeth, but at least he has Hammy to chew it for him. Yeah, Stafa got it.
Did you know? The most advanced Tesla phone product of this century, owned by Elon Musk, branded Pi, is due to be launched in late 2024. The Pi phone has 3 outstanding features that other smartphones don't have. No need to charge the battery, as it uses solar power. It only needs light to charge automatically. No need to expose it to sunlight. No internet capability is needed, because Pi connects directly to Elon Musk's Starlink, which has a global coverage network. Thanks to Dr. Nicholas Koukoulis, the patent holder of Pi and one of the CEOs of a company owned by one of the richest people in the world. Does it sound too good to be true? It will cost only $100. Now that's cheap. If you like this video, hit the like button and let me know what you think.
I don't think people would abandon their iPhone or their Samsung for that. I personally don't think it's going to be that successful.
What angels actually look like.
This is what angels actually look like, part 2. Today we're talking about the cherubim, aka the Chimera angel. And by the way, this is not a cherubim. The cherubim have 4 faces. The face of a human, the face of an ox, the face of a lion, and the face of an eagle. They have the body of a lion, the feet of an ox, and their 4 wings are covered in eyes. And when they fly, they emit balls of lightning and fire, which is convenient because they're essentially heaven's bodyguards. When Adam and Eve were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, God placed a cherubim with a rotating fire sword at the garden's entrance, just in case Adam wanted the smoke. And they literally guard the throne of God. By the way, the reason why we think this is a cherubim today is because the Catholic Church didn't want to scare people away from Christianity during Renaissance Italy.
Here's what to do if you drop your phone in the toilet. First, get your phone out as soon as possible and dry the outside with something like a towel. Then power off your phone completely so you avoid short-circuiting it. Now, if you have an iPhone, take out the SD card on the side, but if you have a phone that lets you remove the battery, do that to allow more airflow so it could dry better. If you can, use a vacuum to suck out the water, but if not, tilt your phone side to side to allow the water to drop out. You may be thinking, Luke, what about putting it in rice? Well, studies showed that the best and quickest way to dry your phone is to let it air dry with good air circulation.
Nowadays, most phones are actually water resistant, so I don't think that's really a problem anymore.
This man went to hell for 23 minutes. Listen to how he describes the demons he saw in hell.
I was standing beneath this tunnel, like cavern walls that were ascending upward. And all along the cavern walls were demons. Some were only 2 and 3 feet tall. Some were 12 and 13 feet tall. But every one of them were twisted and deformed and grotesque. The most hideous looking creatures. And I noticed there were snakes crawling all over everything. And then I looked and I was standing on a bed of maggots, just solid maggots crawling all over everything and everybody. But remember, Jesus said, where their worm dies not and the fire is not quenched. And he used the word maggot. And Isaiah 14:11 says, where the maggot will be spread under thee and the worm will cover thee.
This is no joke. Hell is a real place. Repent of your sins today and turn to Jesus so you never go there.
Once again, when you talk about aura, you better speak on this bear. This is the boss. That's his name, no relation. He's a 700-pound walking boulder of a bear and an anime plot device in a grizzly's body. The boss has been recorded catching, murking, and eating multiple black bears. In fact, one of the first times he was ever seen was next to an expired bear, and officials had to close down the trail until the boss was done eating it. At one point, the boss hit a train and was tragically put down. The train, I mean. Oh, you didn't hear me. I said the bear hit the train. Boss ate that like it was nothing. He even shows up to the same tracks just to eat the animals that weren't strong enough to survive what he walked off. As mentioned, Boss was roughly the size of 2 prime shacks. As a whole plus-size predator, he was and is the biggest bear in the area, and it's believed he fathered more than 70% of all the bears in the area code. Mind you, he's believed to be up to 27 years old. Hey, twins, when the average male grizzly bear lives to 25. Which means father time getting jumped. This bear on a LeBron type of run. And you know a bear that survived a literal train barely second guesses cars, and the boss regularly crosses crosses high-speed highways. It's anime plot armor with predatory hardware. The boss even has his own antagonist. That would be this guy, Split Lip. They've been running fades for years, and they've been in the same area for 15, so this beef may have marinated for over a decade. But I don't think Boss has taken an L yet. Boss from Banff better put some respect on the OG. Original Grizzly.
Places you should never swim, Part 1. Firstly, the boiling lake of Dominica. What makes it so dangerous is the boiling magma under the surface. It's so hot that swimming in it would burn all the skin off your body. Jacob's Well is a lake located in Texas. It's so clear that you can see right to the bottom, but if you ever swam down here, you wouldn't make it out alive. The lake is filled with hidden caves, so finding a way out would be nearly impossible. Finally, the Nile River. It's filled with crocodiles everywhere that could kill you. And if you somehow escape the crocodiles, you'll have to get through snakes. And as you try to get out, you'll run into at least 15 venomous...
There is a huge difference between angels in Islam and Christianity, and that difference is free will. You see, Islam and Christianity are both considered Abrahamic religions. They do share a lot in common. And so both religions speak of angels. Angels in Islam were created from light with the sole purpose of obeying God. In fact, they are incapable of committing sins as they have no free will. In Christianity, angels are capable of sinning. In fact, many that have disobeyed the will of God have been banished from the heavens and are referred to as fallen angels. Which brings us to another very big difference. The devil in Christianity is understood to be a fallen angel. He's referred to as Lucifer. Now, but in Islam, the devil or shaitan is actually a jinn. And I'll discuss what a jinn is very soon.
Creepy last words people said right before dying. A nursing assistant said that she was in a long-term patient's room changing the sheets. The patient would periodically look behind her. She asked the patient what was wrong, and the patient looked in her eyes and asked, "He doesn't scare you?" The nurse was confused, and she asked her who she was referring to, and the patient said, "The big man in the top hat. He's standing right behind you." She said that she doesn't think that she has ever finished changing a bed sheet and repositioning a patient as fast as she did that night. She refused to go into that room by herself for the rest of her shift. Linda Johnson, a former nurse, said that she had a gentleman in his late 90s who was dying. He started screaming blood-curdling screams, so they raced to his room. He was screaming that the room was on fire and that there was a man with large horns peering out of the flames. He kept pointing to one wall, saying that it was on fire. The nurses turned on the lights and tried to calm and console him, but to no avail. Instead of being consoled, Linda said that he told her that she was on fire and that he could see her being consumed by flames. Linda said that it was the creepiest thing that has ever happened to her. The doctor was notified, but nothing relieved the patient's terrifying hallucinations. He died soon after. Cynthia said that several years ago, her 20-year-old daughter had brain surgery. She got an infection of the spinal fluid. She was there in grave condition for a month. Cynthia never left her daughter's side. One night, the worst night at this point, she asked who the man in black was that was standing by the bathroom, and why Cynthia's deceased brother, the girl's uncle, was standing next to her at the side of the bed. Cynthia immediately got the chills. She told her daughter, "They're not here." Then she told her brother and the man in the black, whom she couldn't see, "You both have to go now. She's not ready to go, and I'm not ready to let her go." After that night, her daughter started to get better and better each day. Today, her daughter is doing well.
Hey, Sweet Pea, did you know if you count the number of chirps a cricket makes in 15 seconds and then add 40, you get the temperature of the environment in degrees Fahrenheit, which is really interesting. Also, we genetically modified a few goats to produce spider silk in their milk, so if you skim the top of the milk, it's covered in spider silk, which is actually really useful because spider silk is one of the strongest materials that we have access to, at least under tension. It's not like good under compression or anything like that, but it's stronger than Kevlar under tension. If you were an insect, I think that you'd have a lot more respect for how truly terrifying some insects are, like dragonflies or ladybugs, or especially praying mantises. But I think ladybugs in particular have like this, oh, cutesy little image by like us humans, but like they're like alpha predators. They kill like thousands of bugs in a single lifetime, you know? And dragonflies would especially be terrifying, especially dragonfly nymphs, which is a weird way to think of things, but the dragonfly nymphs are way more deadly than adult dragonflies. They just happen to be really small and only live in the water, and because we're big and not an aquatic insect, we don't really recognize them as the terrifying predators they are. But I think they deserve more respect. Praying mantises too, although I think praying mantises do already kind of get more respect as like the vicious predators they are. But I just think they're also cool. You know?
Honestly, he's not lying. If we were small enough to be insects, I feel like the Earth would be like a real life Elden Ring. Like if you guys ever played Elden Ring, it's like this game where there's a bunch of monsters and stuff. I feel like humans would be like the ants. Then all those other creatures would be like monsters. Like mostly spiders. You know how crazy spiders would be if we were just smaller and spiders were the same size as us? Hell no.
Her arms were cut off and somehow she was still able to escape and survive. This is Mary Vincent. She was born in 1963 and was living in Las Vegas, Nevada. Mary's parents were going through a very messy divorce and she decided that she wanted to hitchhike to her grandfather's home in Berkeley, California. Once Mary was in Berkeley with her grandfather, she started to become homesick and decided that she was going to hitchhike back. Eventually, she came across Lawrence Singleton and he offered her a ride. Mary accepted the ride from Lawrence because he seemed like a sweet old man, but once he started going the wrong way, she grew suspicious of him. Mary starts to have this gut feeling that something is wrong and she's trying to think of ways that she can escape from Lawrence when he knocks her unconscious with a sledgehammer. Once Mary had regained consciousness, Lawrence had tied her up and SA'd her. Mary is now pleading with Vincent to please let her go and she will not say anything, and he replies to her saying, "You want to be set free? Don't worry, I'll set you free," and he chops off both of her arms. He then throws her down a cliff, stuffs her in a cement cylinder, drives off, and leaves her for dead. Somehow Mary was able to survive the fall and climb back up the cliff despite her injuries. Since Mary was bleeding out, she was able to dip the stumps of her forearms in mud and held them up to slow down the bleeding. Mary was walking along Interstate 5 for about 3 miles until she was able to get the attention of a couple who was able to get her medical help. As soon as Mary was in the hospital, she immediately worked with police to help identify and find her attacker, and she even postponed her sleep to make a sketch of what her attacker looked like. Once Lawrence was arrested, Mary testified in court, and he even told her in front of everybody that once he was out of prison, he was going to finish her. Lawrence was sentenced to 14 years in prison, and after 8 years, he was free. Since Lawrence was out in the world again, he did not learn his lesson. He attacked a mother of 3 and then took her life. Mary ended up testifying against him once again, and he was sentenced to death, but before he could be executed, he ended up dying on death row from cancer.
This will blow your mind. In a world's first, researchers at Osmo Labs have achieved the teleportation of smell. I mean, do you realize how crazy that is? Let me put it this way. So, as of right now, humans have only figured out how to teleport 2 of our senses. Sound, with the telephone or speakers, and images with the screens that we look at all day. And we've done that because we've discovered a way to capture those senses digitally and then turn them into data that we could then send instantly. But now, they have managed to do that with smell. So hypothetically, once they're able to replicate this process on machines outside of the lab, not only one day could you send someone a smell like you send them an image or a voice note. Oh my lord, the businesses that are gonna come out of that one, I'll let the comments handle that. But also, and here's the craziest part, they say that by digitizing scent, they've effectively given computers a new sense. You better wake up in 2030 and your iPhone's gonna tell you stink. Go get a shower. Now, the first smell they ever digitized was fresh plum. They captured the scent molecules in a digital format and then reprinted the exact same smell on the other side of the room, which came out looking like a regular clear liquid. And I guess that begs the question, what's gonna happen to all of these expensive colognes once you can immediately reproduce them? Osmo Labs CEO on Twitter said, "Holy moly, I am still processing the magnitude of what we've done."
I feel like that could be good or bad though. Like that could go one of 2 ways. It could be like someone either just always sending you horrible smells, or someone always sending you horrible smells.
Parents, y'all gotta keep your kids off YouTube. For the last 2 months, my son has been coming into my room anywhere from 9 to 11 o'clock at night, and he's crying, and he gives me a hug, and when I ask him what's wrong, he says, "I just love you," and then he goes back to bed. It was happening like once or twice a week. It's always so weird. So I started thinking that he was sleepwalking because it's just out of Troy's character. But it's been happening like once or twice a week for like the last 2 months. This morning we're eating breakfast and he looks over at me and he says, "Mommy, can you happy?" And I'm like, "You what? What?" And he said, "Can you happy so I don't have to you. What? I said, you want me to? And he said, no, I don't, but the show said that you have to happy. And I'm like, what show? And he said, the dragon show. The what? Now, he watches stuff like this. This is Netflix. I'm like, what dragon show? On what? Because I'm trying to pull it up. And he said on YouTube. Now, he's not supposed to be watching YouTube because the last time that he was allowed to watch YouTube Kids, there was a cartoon of a little boy that looks like Caillou that was telling my son to go run and jump in front of cars and get all of his friends to run and jump in front of the cars driving down the street. And so once I realized that that cartoon was legit telling him to go get his friends and they all wait until a car is coming and then they run in front of the car, I was like, oh no, you guys are done. And nobody has been allowed to watch YouTube since. So I didn't even know that they had access to YouTube on their TVs, their Roku TVs. I thought they only had Netflix, Hulu, and then like normal TV. But nope, he's been sneaking and watching YouTube, and whatever cartoon he's watching about dragons is telling him me. And instead of doing what they're saying, he comes in the room crying and hugs me and is just like, I just love you. That is insane. Pay attention to what your kids are watching, because there are really sickos out there. That is crazy.
Yeah, honestly, that is insane. So whatever show that is, YouTube definitely needs to ban. But I would never say stop watching YouTube. YouTube is the superior social media out of all of them, in my opinion. If anything, I feel like TikTok could be worse. I feel like a kid could find way worse shit on TikTok compared to YouTube. Like, trust me, like TikTok, you could find some crazy stuff, and Instagram too. But that is crazy. I really wonder what he said, the dragon show. I mean, if you guys know what the dragon show is, put it down in the comments, because that is very interesting why they would tell kids to do stuff like that.
This is my own personal theory.
Yeah.
So there is gonna be a season 2, and it's gonna be Jihan, the cop, and Saebyuk's little brother, who's gonna go back and dismantle the game. Okay, so here's why. So you brought it up. The cop got shot in the shoulder on purpose by his brother, just so they can save him later and he can go back to the game.
Yeah.
Right? So there was a scene where the worker's mask, remember, got taken off and he got shot. I'm thinking that all the workers are young kids that they took from orphanages and just raised them to be like this robotic person, right? So I'm thinking Saebyuk's little brother, they're gonna take him and they're gonna make him a staff.
Oh, they're gonna recruit them.
Yeah, and he's gonna help Jihan, the main character.
Yeah.
Because he's like, do you know where my sister is? And they're going to go into battle together in this season 2.
Interesting. Well, but the kid's kind of young. That's the only thing. The kid's kind of young.
I know. They might be like, 17 years later.
But I heard this crazy theory.
Honestly, Squid Games 2 comes out, I think, like what, in a month and a half? I would not doubt his theory on that. I personally like the first Squid Games.
This is obviously about to affect a ton of people, but if you know anybody that shops at any of these stores, which includes Target, Aldi's, Kroger, Walmart, and Dollar General, you're gonna want to watch this video. So if you know anybody that shops at any of those stores, there is a massive nationwide warning that's happening right now because of a food recall. They're currently saying that there's more than 20 different food products from a bunch of different stores that's being recalled over a dangerous bacteria, and the list is massive. Now, some of these products are being recalled for listeria, and then others are being recalled for E. coli, and some of them are salmonella, and then some of them are mold contamination, and then the others are potential presence of foreign objects. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, there are a ton of different stores, including Walmart, Target, Kroger, Aldi's, Dollar General, a bunch of gas stations. And then this is the first part of the list if you want to pause and read to make sure that you don't have any of these. And then this is the second part of the list if you want to make sure you don't have these. And then this is the third part of the list. And then this is the fourth part of the list. And then this is the last part of the list. Obviously, there's a ton of food that was recalled. If you were able to pause and read all of those, obviously don't eat it, return it, get a refund, throw it away. I give you these news roundups every day, so make sure you add me and come back to me tomorrow.
What's going on with all these food recalls? There was a waffle recall last week. McDonald's had an E. coli outbreak. And now Walmart, Target, Aldi, and those other stores have another outbreak. I'm pretty sure someone watching this video has shopped at Walmart or Target in the last 2 weeks. Those are like the most shopped stores in the US. So the fact they have an outbreak, in my opinion, is crazy. So honestly, I would go back in the video, pause it, and if you bought any of those items and you feel any sort of weird symptoms, I would say go to the doctor.
Insane facts about your eyes you never knew. Blue eyes are the result of a genetic mutation that occurred in Europe 10,000 years ago. The rarest eye color in the world is green, only 2% of people have them. Your eyes can detect over 10 million different colors. You'll blink over 630 million times in your life.
There's some kids who won Halloween. This little boy went as his grandpa, and that has to be the cutest thing I've ever seen. But it goes hand in hand with this little girl who went as her grandma. And this kid nailed his Russell costume from Up. This little girl and her dog totally won Halloween. Beauty and her Beast. And this kid went as the Stanley Cup. And here we have a little Beetlejuice. This kid went as a jet, and honestly, this costume is pretty cool. This little guy went as a toy soldier. And this kid as the gingerbread man is so iconic. Here we have the Squid Games girl. And this baby as Oscar the Grouch has made my entire day.
This is why you should always lock your doors as soon as you get home.
5:30.
There's a guy outside, look.
The police was called and the man was left alone after his family explains he just has mental problems.
This man tried opening the door. Can you imagine what would have happened if that door was unlocked?
Yo, I have a couple of friends that do not lock their doors when they get inside. I'm like, dude, anyone at any moment could literally just walk into your house. Like, that's scary.
How rare is your body? Only 5% of people in the world can lick their elbow. Red hair is the rarest hair color in the world, and only about 2% of people have it. Next is the double row of eyelashes. Only about 1% of people have this, and it actually causes them to cry more. Only 5% of people have this extra hole near their ear, and it's actually proof that humans once had gills. And if you have 2 different colored eyes, you are super rare because only 0.1% of people have this.
If you have 2 different color eyes, drop it in the comments. I want to see how many people that have different color eyes watch my videos, if there's even any.
The craziest torture methods ever, part 29, the bastinado, dating back to 1537 in Europe and 960 in China. Literally the act of beating the shit out of somebody's feet, typically performed with canes or sticks. They made sure to avoid the bone structure of the ball and heel. They went straight for that soft tenderloin meat right in the middle. That.
These 3 kids are pure evil. In 1966, in the southwestern town of Greenwich, Connecticut, there were 3 ill-tempered kids, Damien, Caleb, and Axel. The townspeople called them the Little Satans. From the age of 5, the Little Satans began to show a cruel side, frequently capturing small animals in the town's woods. The other kids in town were terrified and kept their distance. However, the parents of these 3 believed it was just harmless childhood mischief. Most townspeople chose to stay silent, fearing retaliation from these wealthy and influential families. But the Little Satans' behavior became increasingly brazen. One day, a few children from town went missing, and the last time anyone saw them, they were with the Little Satans. Yet, due to a lack of direct evidence, the local police were unable to launch a deeper investigation. One officer, Marcus Hayes, refused to give up. He kept investigating quietly, watching the 3 families day after day. Then, one night, all the Little Satans' parents gathered together, and Marcus sensed that something was wrong. He immediately called for backup, and they eventually discovered a hidden basement. Inside, they found the missing children from town. As Marcus dug deeper into the case, he uncovered something even more terrifying. Do you want to know what Marcus found? Comment Little Satans to watch part 2. These 3 kids were pure evil. In 1966, in the southwestern town of Greenwich, Connecticut, there were 3 children known as the Little Satans, Damien, Caleb, and Axel. People in town were too afraid to confront the out-of-control Little Satans, fearful of offending their wealthy and powerful families. However, local police officer Marcus Hayes suspected that the Little Satans were connected to the disappearance of several children in town. Eventually, Marcus, along with a few officers, found the missing children in a hidden basement. But Marcus didn't relax. He sensed that something even more terrifying was lurking in the basement. He carefully scanned the room and noticed strange symbols carved into the walls, some of which resembled ancient spells. On a table, there was a worn wooden box containing several yellowed diaries and a rusty knife. On the last page of one diary, it read, "The being we summoned is about to arrive. It promised us that as long as we offer more gifts, it will grant us eternal power." Those gifts were the missing children. Suddenly, Damien, Caleb, and Axel, who had been lying unconscious nearby, all stood up with eerie smiles on their faces. In unison, they spoke in a low, chilling voice. "Did you think catching us would end this? Marcus realized what was happening and shouted, "We have to get out of here." Comment Little Satan's 3 to keep following.
Scariest urban legend from each state. Part 1. Slaughter Canyon in Arizona. A family lived down in the canyon in the 1800s. The husband would always go into the mountains and try and find food for his family. One day, the husband never came back. The family was starving. The wife went crazy and killed her children. To this day, you can still hear the wife crying for forgiveness around the area.
Fun fact, while many people have a fear of flying, they should have a fear of driving. Statistically, if you lived through the drive to the airport, you've already survived the most dangerous part of your journey for the day until you get back into a car when you arrive at your destination. The chances of getting into a deadly plane crash on a large commercial airplane are around 1 in 13 million, but your chances of getting into a deadly car crash are around 1 in 100.
You know, that's crazy he said that, because that's literally what I think about every time I'm about to get on a plane. I'll just be like, dude, the car right here was way more dangerous than the actual plane flight itself.
The food facts you didn't know. Studies show dark chocolate can actually make you smarter. Bananas are classified as berries, but strawberries are not. Honey never expires. They found pots of honey in old ancient Egyptian tombs that are still edible. Carrots weren't originally orange, they were originally purple.
If carrots are originally purple, how the hell are they orange now?
Here are moments of regret that were caught on camera. This one guy thought it would be funny to fool around at his local water park by hiding in one of the slides until the park closed. However, he forgot the fact that when the park closes, someone comes by to lock up the exit to the slide. And this happened exactly where he was hiding, and he was locked up, and his imprisonment was caught on camera. Next, during a heavy flood in his local city, a man tried taking a risk and drove straight into a giant body of water. Not only did this damage his car, but also his dignity, because people nearby were recording and roasting him. Next, this Canadian TikToker was trying to make her cousin laugh, and she succeeded, but it ended with her having a harmonica stuck in her jaw. In the video, which she chose to upload, you can see her panicking and breathing through the instrument, sounding like Thomas the Tank Engine. And finally, this lady saw a punching bag at her local arcade and tried to take a swing at it, only for her aim to be so off that she ended up hitting herself. She then saw that she was being recorded by her friend, flipped him off, and then immediately slipped and fell. I think at this point you have to move countries.
3 ways to survive Jeff the Killer. Number 1. If you see a boy holding a knife at the edge of the woods, don't go near him and run the opposite way. Jeff is extremely strong and fast. Once you get too close, it's already too late. Number 2. Don't ever go looking for Jeff. Looking for him is an extremely bad idea, being so that he's extremely sick and twisted, and he'll probably do things that you wouldn't like being done to you, so looking for him shouldn't be on your list. Number 3. Don't ever make waffles past midnight, being so that Jeff is extremely obsessed with them. He loves waffles, and once he gets that scent, he'll walk towards them, ending up in your kitchen with a knife. Like and follow for more video.
Honestly, I think I'm gonna just make waffles past 12 just because he said not to.
Scroll now or lose your innocence. So fun fact, deer actually like the taste of meat, but don't have the hardware to do anything about it. At least not to anything that's still alive. Yeah, I'd be shocked too. So you're looking at a deer taste testing a cat. Nah, I'm just playing. It's salt. We take it for granted because we can put salt on anything, but wild animals, they gotta get it out the mud. No, like literally, they get creative, and sometimes creative means a mouthful of soil. Sometimes elephants will go into caves just to lick salt off the walls. Yeah, you heard me. Elephants be splunking. And if you're a moose, you might just lick the salt off a car. Probably not great for insurance, car, health, life. A salt-feeding branch tank will wreck all 3. And they might not be a cunning linguist, but best believe a deer will lick a cat clean. Butterflies taste with their feet, and they're attracted to the salt in our sweat. So a butterfly landing on you is taste testing your salt-seasoned skin, and that is no joke. They'll also go out of their way to irritate the eyes of other animals to force them to cry just so they can drink the tears. Yeah, it ain't sweet. Salt can kill you in more ways than high blood pressure. Amazon animals often use clay licks called colpas to add a little salt into their lives, which can get cut brutally short since jaguars will stalk clay licks knowing someone's gonna get got eventually. And deer using salt licks can spread chronic wasting disease. And if you don't know, CWD is death with busy work. And then you got that time mountain goats got addicted to the salt in human urine. And when I say addicted, they had to give them the Aerovag. Those goats were craving that mineral at all costs. Moral of the story, I don't think there is one. I don't even remember how we got here. So something about cats?
Mountain goats are always so interesting to me. I'd be like, dude, aren't they scared to fall off? Because like sometimes they'd be on like the edge, like the literal edge of the mountain, like they're about to like just drop at any moment. I'm just like, dude, how did they even get there in the first place?
Times when companies dissed others, part 5. In 2009, Domino's ran an advertisement saying that in a blind test, their sandwiches beat Subway's 2-1. Well, Subway then solved this and sent a letter to Domino's demanding that they pull their ads from air. Well, Domino's replied with this commercial.
Domino's oven-baked sandwiches beat the taste of Subway's 2-1. Then Subway's lawyers sent us this letter demanding we pull our commercials off the air. I was gonna burn the letter, but everything's better when it's oven-baked.
Next, in 2016, a Burger King in New York covered its entire building with white sheets and dressed up as the ghost of McDonald's, saying that McDonald's was the scariest Halloween costume they could wear. And they also recorded this ad where everybody was just screaming at the building. McDonald's response was, who wouldn't want to pretend to be us?
Weirdest kids' toys ever, part 16. Now this product isn't actually a toy, but it was designed for kids. Wonder Woman safety scissors. These are 100% real and from the late 70s. What were they thinking? I mean, just look at that spread.
Who is the weakest horror movie character on this list? You have Leatherface, Michael Myers, Pennywise, Freddy Krueger, Pinhead, and Jason. Now, as we can all agree, Jason's getting knocked off the list already, because he's the strongest, as we all know. We're now left with Leatherface, Michael Myers, Pennywise, Freddy Krueger, and Pinhead. Leatherface is pretty strong, don't get me wrong, but if he went one-on-one with any of these characters besides Pennywise, I think he's getting clapped. I think him versus Pennywise would be an actually pretty good fight. Yes, Pennywise is a demon, and Leatherface is a cannibalistic human that runs around with a chainsaw, but still, I think it would be a good fight. Then on the other hand, if you have Pennywise fight any of these other characters, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Pinhead, and Jason, Pennywise is getting packed up. So I feel like it's only fair that Michael Myers gets off the list. Michael Myers is packing up all of these characters besides Jason, making him the second strongest. And then for shits and giggles, I'm taking Pinhead off as well, because Pinhead is extremely powerful. As soon as you open that cube, you're wraps. Those chains come out of nowhere, it is chalked for you. Then I'm taking off Freddy Krueger, because let's be honest, Leatherface versus Freddy Krueger, Leatherface is getting packed up. Freddy Krueger versus Pennywise, Pennywise getting packed up. So now the two weakest in my opinion is Leatherface and Pennywise. And if those two fought it out, I really and truly think Leatherface is winning. No holds barred. Pennywise is a fraud. Ain't that scary and ain't that strong. Don't forget to like and follow for more and comment down below what you think.
Soldier lost his life for dating a transgender woman. On July 6 of 1999, a group of soldiers who were stationed at Fort Campbell Army Base in Kentucky drove to downtown Nashville to go to a transgender club/bar called The Connection. One of the soldiers, 21-year-old Barry Winchell, met a transgender dancer, Calpurnia Adams, at the club. The two hit it off, exchanged numbers, and started dating. One of the soldiers, Justin Fisher, started gossiping with other soldiers that Barry was dating a transgender woman. With this information, the soldiers were taunting, teasing, and calling Barry derogatory and vulgar names. Barry reported this to his superiors, but they basically just brushed it off. By the 4th of July weekend, Barry was just getting fed up with everything. Barry and another soldier named Calvin Glover end up getting into a physical altercation. Barry ends up winning that altercation, and the other soldiers are now making fun of Calvin for losing the fight, and he knew that he had something to prove to those soldiers. Calvin went to Justin's locker and retrieved a baseball bat, and while Barry was asleep, he struck him in the head and neck multiple times. Barry was transported to Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville, Tennessee, where he died from massive head injuries. Calvin was arrested and accepted a plea deal for murder. Calvin claimed that he didn't mean to unalive Barry, that he must have just been too drunk. Justin was also arrested and sentenced to 12.5 years in prison. As for Calvin, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole. Justin was released on October of 2006, and Calvin was released on parole on August 27th of 2020.
Yo, that's such a lame excuse. Oh, you know, I was just too drunk, so I just murdered him.
This Russian engineer has just spent the last 6 years in his garage creating a real-life Iron Man suit. And this is not some little fun gimmick. Bro has literally invented certain elements specifically for this suit, like hydrogen artificial muscles. You see those wires? They are connected to his muscles, so when he flexes, the suit moves with him. And it only gets crazier because he created a real plasma repulsor that creates such a quick hydrogen explosion that it can't even be captured on his camera. And just like the entire Iron Man suit is powered by Tony Stark's chess piece, RIP to a real one, so is this suit. He created the world's first fully functional personal hydrogen reactor that powers those plasma shots, the artificial muscles, and even this. Real hand burners that can reach temperatures of over 3,000 degrees Celsius. He made it by creating an electrolyzer that splits water into hydrogen and oxygen, which are then combined and ignited to produce the torch's flame. And the hardest part about this is creating a really powerful continuous torch while also preventing it from blowing out, overheating, and just burning his hand off. So he casually solved this by designing a system with multiple nozzles and then added an inbuilt cooling system. Bro is literally Tony Stark at this point. Now he's currently working on the outer layer of this suit, which has taken him several months just to create the head and torso. Because he didn't just pick up the first material and get cracking. He has designed every element of this suit to fit his body perfectly, which is painstaking. He went from pencil sketches to creating an entire clay model. He then used high-resolution 3D scanning to create a precise digital copy. He 3D printed those parts separately, strength tested countless materials, and then reinforced those pieces with Kevlar and carbon fiber. He even wrote and played the music he uses in the background of his videos. And he also holds the Guinness World Record for the world's first retractable lightsaber. And after 6 years, he's getting close. So the question is, which will be complete first? GTA 6 or a real-life Iron Man suit?
Honestly, I'll take the real-life Iron Man suit before GTA 6. I feel like it's gonna happen before GTA 6. GTA 6 never coming out, I swear to God. But that's cool as hell. Iron Man is my favorite Avenger personally, so the fact that he's doing that is amazing. I swear to God, if we give someone like that $1 billion, the guy could probably create like flying cars, if I'm being honest.
Fun fact. Multiple people have been reporting that their robot vacuum cleaners are getting hacked, allowing hackers to gain full access to the machine's microphone, camera, and motion controls. One family's vacuum cleaner was hacked, and the hacker began shouting racist slurs through the microphone as they drove it around the house. All the hacked robot vacuum cleaners were Ecovacs Dbot X2s, which ABC News Australia had already exposed to have massive security flaws. In another home, a hacked vacuum cleaner chased the family dog around the house while shouting at it through the microphone. But at least these people knew they'd been hacked. It's much scarier for those who didn't. As you can see from the ABC Australia news report, the Ecovacs Dbot X2 has a very good camera, and you can clearly see a person's face or body.
Yo, imagine your vacuum thing running around the house yelling at your dog. If I saw that, I don't even know what I would do. I'd probably just start crying.
This will be the last photo taken of her before she was pushed off of that cliff. This is Jolie Nicole Callan, and she was born on December 29th of 1996. In 2014, Jolie was a senior at Vincent High School, and this is where she would meet Lauren Daniel Bunner, and this is the guy who would become her boyfriend, and they would date for about 10 months. Those who were close with Jolie noticed that there were tons of red flags in the relationship. Lauren was possessive and insecure, and it seemed like he only wanted Jolie to invest her time and energy into him and nobody else. As the relationship progressed, Lauren became more manipulative and controlling, and anytime Jolie tried to leave the relationship, he would do something dramatic to make her stay. For example, Lauren threatened to take his own life, and this scared Jolie, so she decided to give the relationship another chance. In 2015, Jolie graduated from high school, and this time she decided she was going to break off things for good. Despite Lauren's threats, cries, and pleas, Jolie stood her ground, and she was done this time. Lauren wasn't one to accept the breakup easily though, and it took him weeks until he could finally accept that they were never going to be together. Once it seemed that Lauren had finally accepted the breakup, he requested from Jolie that the two remain friends, and she happily agreed to that. On August 30th of 2015, Lauren asked Jolie if she wanted to go on a hike with him, and she agreed. The two had been broken up for about 2 months now, and Jolie texted a friend that she was going on a hiking trip, and it was going to be a symbolic friendship hike. During the outing, Lauren took a series of photos of Jolie and put it onto his Instagram page. The first photo taken of Jolie was her in the passenger side with their dog on her lap, and it was captioned, "On our way to go hiking." The final 2 photos of Jolie would be her on top of the mountain overlooking the view. As Jolie was admiring this view, Lauren took out a gun and shot her twice in the head. He then threw her off this 50-foot cliff, and just seconds before, Jolie was admiring this view, not knowing what her fate was going to be. After leaving the state park, Lauren called 911 and gave a full confession. Jolie had been shot in the back of the head and between the eyes. Lauren was waiting on the side of the road for police to arrive. He was covered in Jolie's blood, and he was quickly arrested and charged with her murder. Just a couple of weeks later, Lauren posted bond and was released from jail. Trial began in November of 2015, and Lauren pled not guilty. Lauren's lawyers argued that he was autistic, and since he was not 21 years of age yet, he did not have to serve more than 3 years in prison despite the seriousness of the crime. Jolie's family got someone in the local press to petition for Lauren's status, and in December of that year, the status was revoked and the case was back in court. On July 13th of 2017, Lauren pled guilty and he was sentenced to 52 years in prison and was tried as an adult. Lauren will also be eligible for parole in 15 years.
If a relationship ever ends and someone's like, yeah, if you leave me, I'm gonna hurt myself. Run. I guess they're trying to say that's how the pyramids were built. I don't know, maybe, but I don't think so.
This is all the news you're not going to see on TV today, but it's going to be simplified in 60 seconds. Mars has now officially been declared unsafe for humans to live, as scientists explained why it never worked. These scientists found that the human exposure to radiation threats, including particle radiation from the sun, distant stars, and galaxies, would actually exceed the safe levels after 4 years on the planet. So they're saying that it is possible for humans to go to Mars, but it's not possible to live on Mars very securely in the long term. This is the real reason as to why one AirPod always dies faster than the other. Basically, you can cause an uneven degradation of your AirPod batteries if you only use one at a time. Like if you're walking around on the phone and you only have one in and you very commonly only use the same one, it'll cause that one to die quicker. The only real way to fix this issue is make sure you use your left and right AirPod evenly, even if you don't use them at the same time. Target is now announcing that they're going to start reducing the prices on more than 2,000 different items for the holidays, and they're hoping to be able to help families during Christmas. I don't know why that matters, because Louis Vuitton just unveiled this $60,000 dog kennel, and in this economy, I mean, this is the perfect gift. Just in case there is anybody interested in this, it's obviously really affordable. This is what it looks like. The state of Hawaii is now getting $9.1 million in funding to protect and restore their forests, which is obviously some really good news we needed to hear today. I give you these news roundups every day, so make sure you add me and come back to me tomorrow.
Chucky, no! No! Chucky, please, no! No, Chucky! Please! No!
I'm not gonna lie, that was one of the most creative Halloween costumes I've ever seen. Like, at first I was like, then I realized it was the dog's hand. Yeah, that was hilarious.
This has got to be one of the most horrendous things I've seen in a while. As many of us already know, 7 years ago, this man, Mark, took in a baby squirrel after his mother was hit by a car. He cared for that squirrel, who he named Peanut, and when he was old enough to be let go safely, he did. But instead of running away, Peanut turned up on his porch the very next morning with a chunk missing from his tail. Mark started documenting his journey with Peanut, and after his videos went mega viral, it is safe to say that Peanut became one of the most beloved and famous squirrels on Earth. But then, 7 years on, the DEC released a statement saying that an investigation had been launched after receiving multiple anonymous reports from the public about potentially unsafe housing of wildlife that could carry rabies and the illegal keeping of wildlife as pets. Mark said that on Wednesday, 10 to 12 DEC agents turned up at his door, raided his house while they sat him outside for 5 hours, and they even gave him a police escort when he wanted to use his own bathroom. They not only seized Peanut, but they also took Fred, the raccoon, who he was also looking after. But then things got a whole lot worse. They found out days later that Peanut had bit one of the staff. And because testing for rabies requires that the animal be euthanized, both Fred and Peanut were killed. Now, as you'd imagine, hearing that, the anger and fury online has been relentless. And Mark and his wife have said they are now in the process of taking legal action against the county.
Dang, they really killed bro's animals. I would be so mad. But at the same time, they did have to test them for rabies. But like, I don't know. I feel like they could have went about it in a different way. That's just a sad ending to them.
One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is the JFK files. And one of the things that you said was that if they showed you what they showed me, this was your quote, you wouldn't want people to know it either.
There's a Martin Luther King file, too, by the way, that they'd like to see. But JFK in particular. So they called me, a lot of good people called me, and they asked me not to do it. So I said, well, we'll close it for another time. But I think I've opened 50%, but I was asked not to do it, and I thought that was a reasonable ask, but now I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it immediately, almost immediately upon entering office.
When people look at it from the outside and you sort of imagine what could be a reason why they would not release those files, it would be there's people that were implicated in the assassination.
Yeah. Well, when they're living people, you generally tend not to want to do it. When people are still living.
Living people that formerly worked for the government.
For the government, and living people that were somehow involved in it, and you tend not to do that. But it's time to open up.
So is he admitting that the government killed JFK and Martin Luther King? Because he did have a Martin Luther King file in there.
Mother was found brutally murdered while her quadruplet toddlers were found covered in her blood. Sheila Bellish was a mother of 6. She had her 2 older daughters from a previous marriage with a man named Alan Blackthorne. After her divorce, she then had her 4 beautiful toddlers right here with this man named Jamie Bellish. On the evening of November 7th, 1997, Sheila was found by her oldest daughter here. After she came home from school, she saw her mother on the floor with her throat slit, and her 4 younger siblings, the quadruplets, were literally crawling all over their mother's blood. Now, when you see this family, they look perfect and happy, but Sheila's past with her ex-husband is very messy. This is Sheila's ex-husband, Alan Blackthorne, and he made her life a living nightmare. So much so that she had to move her entire family from Texas all the way to Florida just to get away from him. Alan was very rich, and a lot of people described him as obnoxious and just a shitty person, but after his divorce with Sheila, he owed her over $1 million for their divorce settlement. He was not happy about that at all, so he hired this man, Jose Luis del Toro, to take Sheila's life. Jose broke into Sheila's house where no one was there except for her and her 4 toddlers, and he watched as she interacted with her babies, and he said that at one point he wanted to leave because he felt bad, but then he ended up just going through with it, and he took her life. This case is extremely devastating. These 4 toddlers were forced to grow up without their mother. And then the daughter who basically saw her mother in that state, which no child should ever have to. And then not only did they lose their mother, but they also lost their father through this process. Alan Blackthorne was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in federal prison without the possibility of parole. And the hitman, Jose Luis del Toro, he did avoid the death penalty. Instead, he was given life in prison without the possibility of parole.
The Rarest Photos Ever Taken, Part 2. Photographer Herbert van der Beek captured this insanely rare moment of a jaguar diving underwater to catch its prey. Unlike domesticated cats, jaguars love the water and are known to be excellent swimmers. In 1932, Dr. Eric Solomon faked a broken arm so that he could sneak a camera in his cast to photograph the Supreme Court. It's one of only 2 existing photos of the Supreme Court in session. Here's an amazing photo of a diver at Silfra Fissure in Iceland touching both North America and Europe at the same time. This is an extremely rare view of people peeking out the balcony of the Statue of Liberty. This area has been closed to the public since 1916 due to terrorist threats. A Florida photographer captured this incredible image of an owl raising a duckling after mistaking the egg for its own. Concerned that the owl would eat the duckling once it realized the situation, a local wildlife sanctuary agreed to take care of the baby bird when they had the chance to steal it from the owl's nest.
Now that owl would have definitely ate him if he knew what it really was, like I guarantee it.
Facts that can one day save your life. If your hair suddenly stands up, run for cover because you're about to be hit by lightning. If a tornado ever looks like it's not moving, run or take cover, because it is actually moving towards you. If a service dog approaches you without its owner, follow them and do it quickly because you can save someone else's life. The more colorful the animal is, the more likely it's poisonous and you should never touch it.
Things that will happen in the next 24 hours on Earth. Part 1. 231 million people will make love tonight. 365,000 babies will be born. 22 million people will celebrate their birthday. There will be 8.6 million lightning strikes. Chickens will lay 190 million eggs. Toilets around the world will be flushed 22 billion times. 100,000 trees will be cut down for paper bags and toilet paper alone. 200 different plants or animal species will become extinct. Your heart will beat over 100,000 times. 15 million cigarettes will be sold around the world, and 20,000 people will die of smoking. Follow for more facts.
Animal facts that'll make you see the world a little differently. The only reason tigers are orange is because the animals on their grocery list are Helen Keller to the color. So if you're something like a deer, this is what the biggest cat in the world and a striped Uber to the afterlife looks like. Polar bears have black skin. The only reason they look white is because their fur is translucent and hollow. And with hollow hair, light bounces off of them and reflects enough to look like an aggressive piece of snowdrift. Flamingos aren't naturally pink. The color comes from the carotenoid pigments in the shrimp and algae they eat. If they didn't eat it, they'd look like an IKEA kitchen, just 50 shades of bland. And if you move like Bugs Bunny and start ODing on carrots, the same thing can happen to you, but instead of pink, you turn a shade of orange. If you think an orca's eyes are here, you've fallen for their trap card. It's actually right there. The giant white patches are false eyes to trick any prey that tries to fight back. That's just devious. This is a black bear. Let me explain. This is a black bear with a mutation called leucism that basically turns it into a shiny Pokemon. Matter of fact, all three of these are black bears, and I can't even be mad. I'm black and I'm proud, but I'm black and I'm brown, at least according to Crayola. Bulls hating the color red is a myth. Mostly because bulls can't even see the color red, but chickens do, and because their instinct is to attack the color red, you're more likely to get pressed by a pack of poultry if you cosplay as the Kool-Aid Man. The more you know.
I'm telling you, the devil is in the music. Listen to this song right here. Do you hear it? Do you remember listening to this song and hearing it? Bet you didn't know what it said. Watch this. Okay. When are you going to understand that the devil is in the music? He promotes his dysfunction to these people who aren't following God. If you're not following God, you can be easily influenced by the devil to do what he wants to do through you. So be with the Lord, and if you stand for Jesus, type in the comments, I stand for Jesus, and share this with a friend.
Yeah, he's actually not lying at all, because in my head, bro, music is like just brainwashing. Cause I know people personally that will listen to artists say they do this, and then they copy them.
This is what humans will look like in 1,000 and 1,000,000 years. And I promise you the ending will shock the shit out of you. We will most likely be part human, part machine, having small nanobots inside of us so that we are not limited by the bodies that we're born in, and most likely even robotic features to increase your eyesight, hearing, physical strength, and agility. So a cross between a Terminator and a fucking Jedi. Wow. We will next have perfect genes. Scientists are already working on a gene editing technique called CRISPR. It sounds like a Chris company, literally allowing us to build healthier humans from birth to make sure there are no diseases or birth defects. Also, there's a chance that we'll leave death behind completely. Aye. Normal! By literally scanning your brain into a computer. We are all Siri. We'd basically all be superheroes. Speaking of which, what superpower would you want? Let me know in the comments. But here's the kicker. 1,000,000 years, what in the fuck are we gonna look like? Well, this is us in 100,000 years. Loki, kinda like it. And then 1,000,000 years. What the fuck are you doing? Cheers with the friends and let them know what they're gonna look like one day. Everyone with me?
I don't know if anyone watching this video right now will remember this, but I remember in one of my previous videos, I think I posted it either 2 weeks ago or last week, I said that humans like to predict where we would be like 100 years from now. We were always wrong. That's like a good example of that. It is possible though.
Ariana Grande claims that she was attacked by a demon. Watch this.
Wow, Ariana Grande has got a real problem with demons, she told Complex magazine. Apparently, she went to a haunted cemetery called Stull Cemetery near Kansas City.
And it's actually supposedly one of the gateways to hell, supposed gateways to hell. And this is what she said happens. I felt this sick, overwhelming feeling of negativity over the whole car, and we smelled sulfur, which is the sign of a demon.
Who knew?
She said, this is scary, let's leave. I rolled down the window before we left and said, we apologize. We didn't mean to disrupt your peace. Then I took a picture, and there are 3 super distinct faces in the picture. They're faces of textbook demons.
That is
Hollywood is full of demons, but that doesn't have to be you. Subscribe for more, and check the video I pinned in the comments about how to get rid of demons.
What is that guy talking about? Did he not hear the story? She literally said that she went to a haunted cemetery and saw a demon. This man said Hollywood is filled with demons.
2024 just got even crazier, part 16.
Firstly, a Canadian man who was about to go on an upcoming camping trip used Google Maps to see the area that he was going to be camping. Well, while on Google Maps, the man discovered this, and experts believe that the man just discovered a very possible ancient meteor impact while on Google Maps. The fact that he found this using Google Maps is wild. Next, also in Canada, a woman who was at a barbecue started playing with these water guns with a child. Well, while playing with the water guns, she accidentally sprayed the neighbor who was cutting grass next door. Well, the man got angry and called the police, and somehow the woman was charged with assault with a weapon. Finally, a 57-year-old man was about to have burgers when the burgers were frozen together. So he got a kitchen knife to separate the burgers, but while he tried to separate them, he accidentally stabbed himself and the man unfortunately passed away. RIP, this is horrible.
Fun fact, the reason why bagels sometimes come separated already is actually because when people used to cut bagels, they used to actually cut themselves. And that was a big reason why bagels were so unhealthy.
Yo, what's up? These are the scariest facts about everyday life, part 1. A regular office desk contains 400 times more bacteria than a toilet does. That's disgusting. In only 1 pound of peanut butter, there can be over 150 bug fragments and over 5 rodent hairs. That means rat hairs and insects. Watching TV for more than 2 hours a day can shorten your life expectancy by 1.5 years. But if you watch it for more than 5 or 6 hours a day, you could shorten your life expectancy by 5 years. That's insane. This one scared me a little bit because I do wear a lot of rings, but under those rings can contain as many as 730 million germs. That's the size of Europe. And the fact that I wear my rings every day kind of concerns me because it could get me sick. The last one's going to be 15% of the air you breathe in just an average metro station is human skin. So you're breathing in everybody's skin around you, which is kind of terrifying.
Which of these facts is the hardest to believe? It takes sunlight 8 minutes and 20 seconds to travel from the sun to the earth. The reason why doctors flick the syringe before giving you a shot is to remove air bubbles. This is because air bubbles can block your blood, so make sure the doctor flicks the syringe. If you get anxious every time you hear a knock on the door or hear your phone ring, it is because you do not have enough serotonin in your body. A lot of people suffer from phantom vibration syndrome, which is when you feel your phone vibrating when it actually isn't. Now, if you were offered a new phone but it meant having to kiss the second person that comes up when you click share and then WhatsApp, would you take it? Research shows that most people in the world choose blue as their favorite color. Comment your favorite color. You can go to prison for cheating on an exam in Bangladesh. Both more.
Personally, my favorite color is black. Let me know your favorite color in the comments. And I know someone's out there gonna be like, black's not a color, it's a shade.
In Bangladesh. Both more.
Here's what would happen if the world lost oxygen for 5 seconds. Any mode of transport that isn't electric will fail. Planes will fall out of the sky and millions of cars will be stopped in their tracks. Our ears would explode due to the sudden change in air pressure as oxygen makes up 21% of the atmosphere. In just 5 seconds, the Earth would look completely different. You can say goodbye to anything made of concrete as these structures rely on oxygen as a special binding agent. If you're at the beach, then expect a severe sunburn as there would be nothing protecting us from the sun's UV rays. The Earth's crust would crumble as it is made up of 45% oxygen, sending everyone on the planet into a freefall. Comment if you think you could survive.
Morbid Facts, Part 415. Found in a jungle cave in 1867, a feral boy named Dina Sanichar preferred eating raw meat, had trouble standing on 2 legs, growled like a wolf, chewed on bones to sharpen his teeth, and never learned how to speak. He eventually became the inspiration for Mowgli in the Jungle Book. In 2016, 11-year-old Nebraska girl Lulu Gilreath was going on her first carnival ride when it quickly turned into anyone's worst nightmare. Her hair got caught in the machinery of a spinning ride at a carnival and her scalp was almost completely torn off. The horrible accident damaged both of her eyes and nearly killed her. After World War II, Japanese General Hitoshi Imamura was sentenced to 10 years in prison after failing to control his unit, which committed horrible atrocities toward Allied soldiers. Believing that his own sentence was too light compared to the men under his command, Imamura built a replica prison in his garden where he stayed for decades until his death in 1968.
Yo, the story about the girl that got caught in the ride, bro? Her scalp? Oh, that's so scary. That's like a nightmare scenario.
Uzi Vert's scary performance at Rolling Loud.
You were today years old when you found these out. If you scratch the inside of your ear with your finger, it sounds like Pac-Man. Okay, if you think about it, at any point in history, you had an ancestor living no matter what. Your car keys have traveled further than your car. I was today years old when I realized there isn't a skeleton inside of you. You are the brain, so you're inside the skeleton. It's actually proven that a midday nap can reduce your chance of a heart attack by 37%. You've never actually watched a full movie because you blink. And did you know dogs can smell cancer? Dogs are able to pick up on a specific scent that cancer produces in a person, which is undetectable to humans.
Darkest performances.
Everyone, but no one notice it.
Yeah, a lot of artists' performances like very devilish. I wonder what's the agenda behind that.
We need to talk about the infamous Russian pedophile and snuff film ring. So just so I'm factually correct, here's the article I'm talking about here. So in the year 2000, a massive scandal rocked Russia. In that year, Russian authorities uncovered a pedophile ring that ran all the way from Russia to the United States. There were over 5,000 members that were busted in different countries, but the exact details of these crimes are really hard to stomach, so viewer discretion is advised. Obviously, the police and authorities had to watch some of this content that was uncovered, and what they saw was absolutely disturbing. They saw hundreds of different children being abused by groups of men, and on top of that, after the abuse was over, these children were then brutally tortured and killed on camera. Now, something extremely disturbing is that these videos made over $470 million worth of revenue. Just stop and think about that for 1 second. Just stop and think about how much money that is that people were paying to watch these videos. There were people in the US purchasing these tapes, there were people in the Middle East, people in Russia, people in Italy. And in fact, when they were covering this news story, 2 European TV stations accidentally broadcast images and video from the tapes. Graphic, uncensored material. Obviously, the whole team that was involved in that was fired. But the police officers and authorities who actually worked on this case have gone on the record and said every single night since then, they still hear children screaming in their dreams. So these rings operated throughout many different countries, including Italy, Russia, all throughout the Middle East. And what the authorities think they were doing was snatching children out of orphanages and even at times targeting kids when they walked away from their parents at the circus. Now, thankfully, hundreds of people were arrested after this was uncovered and justice was dealt. And thankfully, Russia's prison system is pretty brutal, so I'm sure that the men who were put in there for these crimes got the justice that they deserved. But this is absolutely frightening because this stuff is still happening today in 2024. It's not just happening in Europe, it's happening in America. There's so much more we could get into here. But yeah, we need to continue to talk about this stuff to raise awareness that this is happening.
Yeah, you just gotta watch your kids and make sure you know who they're around. But obviously there's some cases where like that's not the case. And like, for example, like the orphanage, those kids kind of had no choice, sadly.
I thought that the French protests were unhinged before, but this might be the single most hilarious way of protesting I've ever seen. As we all know, Paris is hosting the Summer Olympics, but a lot of French people aren't very happy about that. Because, and I only found out about this today, the Olympics is kind of a scam when it comes to a country actually making money. Don't get me wrong, it's great for global street cred, but for example, when China hosted it, they made a net loss of 36.4 billion, and London made a net loss of 13 billion. billion, and that's all taxpayer money. So when the public heard that France has already spent over 5 billion, and then that Macron wanted to spend another billion just to clean up the Seine River so it looks good for the Olympics, they lost it, and the I shit in the Seine River protest began. On the 23rd of June, the French President Macron and the Paris mayor planned to take a ceremonial swim in the river to show off just how clean it is. So the protesters are now planning a defecation flash mob because, and I quote, after putting us in shit, it's up to them to bathe in our shit. Oh, and if you don't live in Paris, no bloody problem, because someone created this website. You type in how many kilometers you are away from Paris, and using a water flow algorithm, it will tell you precisely the day and the exact time you need to shit into the river to reach Paris at the time Macron will be swimming in it. Oh, I told you, and that is why I say,
if you work the night shift, this is something you should never do. A nurse and his co-workers are working the night shift when they decide to explore a closed out area of the ER that's believed to be haunted by the spirit of a boy who passed away in one of the rooms. As they make their way there, they find this creepy looking doll by the work desk, but continue exploring. Now, looking for a scare, they arrive at the room that's haunted by the spirit of the boy. Then this happens.
Go in. Go in. Go in. Figure out why the lights are. I don't like that. I don't like that. Do it. They look like evil eyes. You guys think I'm with me? Yeah, of course we're gonna go in with you.
Thanks. Ooh, it feels weird. Is that you? Yeah. This room feels weird. I don't like this. Ooh. Oh! 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 The curtain moved!
No, it did.
Yeah, it did. It moved. It moved. It moved. Yes, it did.
Why would
It did.
move?
How did you not see that? Oh, okay.
Oh my god.
Now, let's be real for a second. So as a nurse, you know what I'm saying, you take care of people all the time. People die. Apparently this was a little boy. Imagine being the mother of this little boy, seeing the nurses going in the room like, oh my god, it's haunted. He died in here.
Another song written by the devil? Watch this. Now, if you believe the devil definitely wrote that song, better follow or subscribe.
people who went missing and were found alive years later. In 2011, two fishermen from Kiribati were lost at sea for 33 days before they landed on the Marshall Islands, and when they arrived, locals took them to meet the only person on the island who spoke their language. Well, the fishermen then discovered that the only person who spoke the language was one of the fisherman's uncles who went missing 50 years earlier, who also got lost at sea. He was thought to be dead, but it turned out the uncle was perfectly fine and had a whole new life. Next, in 1997, a family in China had their young son abducted outside their home, and when an official search couldn't find their son, the father started his own search. So for the next 2 decades, he would travel all over China on motorbikes with flags of his son, and would hand out flyers everywhere. And 24 years after he spent all of his life savings, his son was finally found. Props to that father. Did the Olympics just create a parody of Jesus' Last Supper with drag queens? Well, that is the question being asked after last night's Olympic ceremony took place. And in a couple of the acts, some were claiming that religious imagery was used, like the golden calf, the fourth horseman, and one scene in particular is being compared to Leonardo da Vinci's mural of Jesus and his 12 disciples. In the scene, broadcast cameras pan out on a number of drag queens standing behind a raised stage, with one in the middle wearing a piece on her head that is likened to religious drawings of a halo with lines of light emanating out of it. Some outraged with this scene said this is extremely disrespectful to Christians, and that the Olympics declared loudly that the 2.4 billion Christians on Earth are not welcome. But others say that those offended are just reading too much into it, and the organizer stated that the performance was to make us aware through a humoristic and poetic song the absurdity of violence between human beings. So the question is, what do you think? Was this scene intentional or merely a coincidence?
What I think is, why are they using drag queens? Like, they could have used anyone, any person, but why drag queens specifically? That's just oddly specific. If you got this far in the video, remember our like goal is 2,000 likes, so like the video.
This Christian movement believed that the Christian God was evil.
I am of course speaking about Gnosticism. Now, Gnosticism refers to a range of different ideas that emerged around the first few centuries of Christianity. Much of what we knew about Gnosticism was actually lost. Our knowledge of it mostly came from those that criticized it. Well, at least until 1945, as that is when Gnostic texts were discovered in Egypt. Now, the creation story in these texts is what's interesting. Now, I'm basically going to be presenting a very brief summary of a summary by the scholar known as David Brackey. So Gnostics believed that reality was originally just a single supreme God, so complex that our human minds wouldn't be able to comprehend it. But over time, this God started to produce other deities known as eons. It produced quite a few, and they were basically in pairs, having a male and female counterpart. Now, they all existed within this great spiritual realm. But here's where things got a little messy. One of these eons was referred to as Wisdom or Sophia, and she decided to reproduce without a male counterpart. So she reproduced asexually. And while it worked, her offspring was this deformed, twisted creature known as the demiurge. It was deformed, twisted, and evil, right? So what did the other eons do? They cast it out. It's put in isolation away from the spiritual realm. In its isolation, it decided to create its own realm, right? So it started to create its own eons and later our reality. But it convinced its creations that it was the supreme God. There was nothing beyond him, forcing its creations to worship it. But because it's so imperfect, its creations are imperfect, which is why our world is full of suffering and pain, according to the Gnostics. And according to the Gnostics, the demiurge is the God of the Old Testament. So the goal of the Gnostics, at least those that believed in this creation myth, was to realize the reality of our existence. Of course, Christians didn't really like this whole conspiracy theory about them, so that's why Gnostic texts are so rare. They were burnt, destroyed throughout history. Now, this is a very brief summary. There's a lot more to it, but perhaps I'll make more videos about it soon.
Now, all this UFO stuff is really cool, but I have a big warning for you guys, and it's not what you're expecting. Now, to back up my claims, I'm going to use documents only from .gov websites. I'm trying out a new style of video. I'm going to get lit and ramble to you guys. I'll be right back. Now, first groundbreaking discovery, we got Harry Potter and government documents. Fuck yeah. But to be real, this is one of the most heavily redacted documents I've ever looked at. A lot of them are really redacted. This one has more boxes than it does text. Now, for my warning on UFOs, what you're seeing might not actually be what you think that you're seeing, and this document backs it up. They're talking about metamaterials being used to create illusions, active sources to conceal objects and create illusion effects at the same time. Straight out of this document, it says you can make an apple look just like a banana. And this is from 2010, so it's 14 years old. Other issue with this is it says, you know, metamaterial can create illusions. See figure 1. Figure 1's a blank box. Now, they're using wave propagation to optically transform the way you see something, make it invisible, bend the light around it, make it look like something else. Like I said, the apple looks like a banana now. I'm not going to bore you with the science. I don't think I'm in a state to even attempt to explain it right now, so let's just look at the results. January of 2009, Duke University researcher built the first invisibility cloak, and in 2006 he had created software that speeds up the design of said metamaterials, the stuff they use for the cloak. And they did it in 10 days. Next up, May 2009, researchers from UC Berkeley created a carpet cloak. Anything you put under it is invisible, and it's made from nano-constructed silicone. Interesting. 2009 was a big year for this. July 2009, UAB Spain designed an invisibility cloak like in Harry Potter. That's crazy. This makes sense now. And that's literally all there is to it. It's a 9-page document. That's all we got. The only other thing is this question, which they may have forgotten to redact. It just says, how do atmospheric conditions between the object and cloak affect the cloaking at optical frequencies? So how does the atmosphere affect how things hide? We can't even know the answer to that. Or any examples at all. They say it works, they just won't show us. So that could mean two things. First off is whoever designed this stuff is still working really heavily with the government and something kind of related to this, or their name just needs to be redacted. but that doesn't really explain pictures. So let's look at the second option. It probably works. That is the second option. It probably works. Now, redacting names is one thing. That could be for the most boring things you can think of, but when you have the pictures redacted too, there really is something that should not be shown to everybody for good reason. Now, you could look at me and say, well, they released this, that means it probably doesn't work. Why is half of the document hidden? Why? Why is half the document hidden? Tell me. Now, as well as that, you can think, these documents could easily be fake. It's coming from people who are good at lying. It's what they get paid to do. They do it for our national security, but they still do it. So how well can you really trust them? And I agree with you. While some of the stuff like the gateway process holds some real promise in looking at ancient parts of the world and all these different things, this is too easy to find. They want people to see this if they look up CIA documents. I don't care what you Google. If you have a G, in anything you type in cia.gov-G, this will pop up. Anything somewhat related will pop up. You type in CIA psychics, gateway process. They have thousands of psychic documents. This is the one you'll see. Type in UFOs, gateway process, everything, gateway process. But that being a thing makes these documents a lot more credible, and for good reason. These are so goddamn hard to find. You guys don't know how much time I spend just finding these. It is astronomical. It takes me more time to find these than it does to read them and edit a video together. I mean, the longest part is figuring out what the hell I'm even looking for. See, because you have to look by keyword. You go on this government website and you can't just look at documents. You got to start typing stuff in, and then you'll find, all the normal stuff at the top that you'll see if you type anything in. And then on page like 36 of sets of documents, you find something interesting, you click it, and it's like a 300-page document. You start looking and it's purchase orders, real boring shit, and in the middle of it is something like this. Like, it's a gold mine, it's the needle in the haystack. If it was fake and they wanted you to see it, it would not be so hard to find. And I'm telling you guys, you will find stuff like this that's saying, oh yeah, we hypnotized people and tried to mind control them. You will find the crazy documents on like page 400 of purchase orders. That's how this goes. It's not going to be easy to find. You can't keyword type this stuff in. Like literally, it will be pages of this, and this is just for your illustration purposes. Thousands, hundreds, a lot, and then you'll find something just 2 pages in the middle, and it's like, oh, whoa. You see that stuff. It's crazy. It's not easy to find. Like, think about that. It doesn't make sense. So with something like this document, I can't find this on the CIA website if I search it by keyword. I was looking at the Voynich manuscript, something like that. I don't know how to say it. And it popped up by keyword. This did. I typed in anything I could find on this document on the CIA website. It doesn't come up. But if I Google that certain sentence I Googled looking at that manuscript, this popped up with the CIA.gov link. I mean, you can't tell me it's just fake and a psyop if you can't even find it. But yeah, I'm not saying Project Bluebeam's real by any means at all. I think it's pretty far-fetched-ish. Old people have been commenting this under my videos since the first day I put a video out. I'm just saying that the technology exists to make you see things when they're not there, and just keep that in mind if all this crazy stuff really does happen. Anyways, I love you guys. Yeah, thank you.
Oh nah, for sure the technology exists to trick your eyes, to make you think, oh, this is that when it's really that. If they can make an invisible cloak, they definitely could make like fake UFO things, and I truly believe that they could do that. It's like what Neil deGrasse Tyson said. I know a lot of people, some people don't believe what he has to say, but it's true. If an alien can travel millions of light years to Earth, why would they get here to just crash, But there could be a whole different possibilities behind that, but I truly think that there might be something more at play.
Thank you all for watching.